District 7 saws. So we're talking about saws today. We're going to start down here at the end with the rotary saws, circular saws, oftentimes called K12s, even when they aren't. But right here at the start of the line, we have an actual Husqvarna, which is the equivalent of the Partner K12, which there are a couple kicking around still in the district. But this saw is on ladder 46. And it is the saw that we want to use for vertical ventilation operations, especially on commercial structures. It runs a carbide chip blade and runs a big powerhouse. So this is the saw to grab for the carbide chip. We'll go over starting operations in another video for everything. Next up on the list, we have the saw that is common on every engine and the trucks, and that is a Stihl 500. This is a forcible entry saw. Runs a diamond blade that is suitable for cutting through metal and concrete if it's got water to go along with it. We'll use this saw for forcible entry on roll-up doors and swing doors. Also works great on cable barriers that might be in your way on a driveway, way better than using bolt cutters. Just fire this up and cut cable barriers. And then we get to the chainsaws. So we have a few different chainsaws in the district, and we want to make sure that everybody's clear on when and where and how you will use the saws that we find around the district. Saws really come in two variations for us. We have rescue saws, and then we have utility saws or wood cutting saws. So starting down here with rescue saws, the older generation, we have a couple of these still around in the district. They're 461s, but both the 461s and the 462s have carbide chains on them. The big difference is the 461s are a completely manual saw. So they have a 4-position switch in the back that we'll go over when we do starting. And the 4-position switch is how you know the saw doesn't have a computer in it that's aiding in the control of the carburetor. And so 462 will have a slightly different startup procedure on it and run and shut down procedure. But otherwise, these saws will function interchangeably between the older 461s and the newer 462s. We come to the 462s, which are on most of our frontline rigs. We have an update from Stihl on the technology here. And so there's actually a computer inside of the carburetor that controls throttle, fuel, and air mixture. And so this is why we say with that computer that when you're running these saws, and this also applies to the Stihl circular saw, that computer has a memory that's constantly running and remembering what you're doing. So when a saw like these are running and you're running them hot, full throttle, we want them to sit and idle down for 15 to 20 seconds before actually shutting the saw down, so the saw doesn't remember that high rev and then try to overfuel you when you're starting the saw up again on the next time. One of the ways you know that you have one of these computer-controlled saws is that the switch on the back is only a 3-position switch. So it has a momentary up that's the kill, and then it always falls back into run, and when we want to put it into start, we have to push it down into choke. And then that's the only options on the saw. And once it's running, we can drop back down into run position. The 462s, 461s have a carbide chain on them. And that chain is for roof operations, building operations, window to doors. If we're cutting into anything that's going to have metal, nails, asphalt, that's the right application for this. We do have in the district a couple of sets of the wood cutting chain that can go on these saws if we're doing a down tree in the road or something like that. They live in these boxes that are permanently labeled that they're for trees, 461 or 462 interchangeable there. But this saw, because of its bigger gauge of chain, can't run a wood cutting saw from a smaller saw. Even though they both have a 20-inch bar, the wider chain gauge means that we have to have a special wood cutting chain if we're going to use our 462s or 461s for cutting down trees. Moving down the list, we have the 261s. These are on the brush trucks. These are real wood cutting saws. So this is where we're going to run into our wildland application, down trees, whatever we're going to do that's going to be cutting up just wood material this is a good application for that saw. This one, same thing, 3-position switch on the back, and a decompression like all the other saws. Even though it's a smaller saw, still runs a decompression on it. And then inside the district, in the stations, especially here at the training vent prop area, we keep a couple of these older utility saws. These are the saws we're going to take up to do vertical ventilation training with these saws, so we're not causing excess wear and tear on the rescue saws. So these saws live here for vent training, 4-position switch. We can go over starting and operating on these, but same wood cutting chain that we see on the 462s, but just on a saw that we'll only use for training operations. And lastly, another 462, but we have a chain difference here. Still a carbide chain, but we are sampling out a different chain maker. This is the Rabco Terminator. The other ones that run from Stihl come with the Stihl RDR rescue chain on it. Both chains are carbides. Some upgrades to this one. Just trying to see how we like this compared to the other ones. One of the big things we run into with the carbide chains is that we are using them when we shouldn't be using them. And so these chains on the carbide chains on these saws are very expensive. A regular wood cutting chain is $50 maybe, 60, and these are in the $300 to $400 range to get a chain for these saws. So if you don't need to use a carbide chain, you should try to avoid it because of the cost and the breakdown that happens with these things.